What is up? Happy Tuesday rather, to everybody. If it's Tuesday, it's Jason Sukamel Day. And if it's Jason Sukamel Day, then we're going to be talking recruiting. But Jason, we're going to be talking recruiting in a kind of a little bit of a different capacity. Transfer portal, second window is about to open up on Wednesday. Texas already received a commit, Jason, from Stanford receiver Emmett Mosley. He was able to commit, Jason, because Stanford doesn't have a coach anymore because they got some issues over there at that program. And so they don't have a coach. So he was able to get out of his deal and commit to Texas yesterday. So I want to start with Mosley and then talk about maybe where Texas might be headed. But what were your thoughts? We heard about Mosley, kind of happened pretty quickly, and then he gets on the campus, and that's all she wrote. Your thoughts on Texas picking up a wide receiver?
Yeah, Stanford's misfortunes are, Texas's fortune, I guess. You think about Stanford. I just always picture Stanford as like a squeaky clean program. Hey, no issues, but I don't even know what's going on over there. But they don't have a coach right now, right? Or
No.
I don't think so. But he set up that Texas visit. He visited Virginia. He comes to Austin on Friday, I think it was. I saw him on campus. I was down there on Saturday on Longhorn. I did see him leaving campus, and they were rolling out the red carpet treatment. You just kind of tell the body language. Like I'm just seeing all the hugs and high fives or handshakes, whatever. And it looked like it was a good visit from afar. Emmett Mosley doesn't talk much. I tried to communicate with him directly, and he's been very quiet. He's been silent, in fact. But I was able to kind of tap into a source that does communicate with Emmett Mosley, and he said, "Hey, it's a good visit." Did I expect a commitment yesterday? Was I sitting there with a commitment story written? No, I probably could have, maybe should have had one written, but I hadn't had a whole lot of time the last few days. But no, but it popped yesterday, and able to get it confirmed pretty quickly. I tell you what, man, I really like this pickup, Anwar. He only played 1 year of football at Stanford. He had 48 receptions, 525 yards, 6 touchdowns. I'm not going to sit here and pretend to know what Stanford's offense looked like. I didn't watch it. But I got to figure he's going to be coming to Texas with much more wide receiver friendly and better quarterback play, right? I'm going to assume that. So if he did that at Stanford as a freshman, what might he be able to do at Texas next year? And you're going to get him for at least 2 years if you get Texas. I mean, assuming he doesn't transfer again, 2 years, maybe 3. I mean, we'll see what this guy's future holds in terms of NFL possibilities. But I mean, this is a legit big time player. Texas absolutely needed some depth and experience and talent at the wide receiver position. You're banking on guys coming back, and Texas has 2 receivers out this spring, right?
Yeah.
DeAndre Moore and Wingo now. I mean, those guys are going to come back. They're going to be fine, but you don't have much proven depth. I mean, Parker Livingstone's having a great spring. Every time we tap into sources, he gets brought up. Some of these young freshmen, Dalen McCutcheon, Jamie French are making plays. But Aaron Butler's name's even been mentioned. But there's just not any proven depth behind those 2 injured guys in terms of game experience. So you're getting a guy who I think is going to be a plug-and-play player. Is he going to be a starter? I don't know. We'll see. But I think he's going to be – if he's not a starter, he's going to be on the field that the first few reps. I mean, first few plays. He's that caliber of player. And just a tremendous pickup for Texas.
It's interesting, Jason, because again, as I look at it, and there's a couple of things for me. I think good pickup for Texas. Good to be good, and it's always good to have more bodies in the room. But I get the feeling, Jason, that when we're talking about Mosley in the transfer portal, I feel like he'll end up being the opening act for the other receivers who are about to come, like kind of the headline guys, So who comes after the opening act? Like who's right before the headliner? Who's that person called? What's that thing called on the music thing?
Opening act, or I don't know.
You know what I'm saying?
That undercard. I'm like, I don't even know. Like, what do you call that? Yeah. So
yeah, but there's if there's 3 people on the concert, right? If there's 3 people, there's this one person, there's another person that gets to perform a little bit longer, and then you have your headliner, right? I feel like he's the first one of the many dominoes that are about to fall. In your opinion, do you sense that you think Texas is like, we got our guy, we're done? Or that this is like, okay, this is great, but this is just the start?
I think they'll take more than one receiver if the right guys are out there and if they can get them to come to Texas. I mean, suddenly now, I mean, Texas still isn't stacked at receiver, but the more guys you add, it gets harder to add other players, right? Because they're saying, hey, you guys have Ryan Wingo, you have DeAndre Moore, you have Emmett Mosley, so it kind of depends on who's out there. But the other side, like, I'm so fascinated by this second window. To me, the second window would normally be for guys who, okay, I'm kind of buried on my depth chart. I went through spring football. I'm not seeing the kind of action I want to see. I'm going to go try my hand elsewhere. That's what I would normally think the second window is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Or is it going to be, hey, I don't say tampering, but, our agents are smart. Like, hey, dude, you're a really good player at a Baylor type school or somewhere like that. Why don't you jump in the portal, and schools like Texas or Ohio State or Georgia will come at you. You can make a lot more NIL money on a much bigger stage. I just don't know how the second portals, we'll find out tomorrow. But I do think Texas would take a second receiver. I just don't know what this version of the portal is going to look like just yet. Originally, I kind of thought, hey, it's going to be for the lesser players that aren't making an impact at their school. But it could be a deal like Ket said. Hey, Texas puts up in his 10 thoughts this weekend. Ket said, hey, Texas kind of puts up the bat signal. Hey, we need a tight end. If you're a badass tight end, jump in the portal. Let's talk NIL. Let's get you here to Austin. So, I just don't know what kind of talent's going to be available yet. This is kind of a uncharted territory a little bit, the second portal window this year. But I do think they would take a second receiver if they're able to.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is,
and honestly, Elmer, the way the world is now, they may already have like lines in the water for 4 or 5 different guys. They may be talking to agents behind the scenes, people from Texas and agents and things. So, these things can move pretty quickly, even before the portal window opens.
I mean, it's, to me, Jason, you remember back in the day when the NFL free agency used to it would start at midnight. And then they would announce a deal that was done at 12:04 a.m. You're like, wait, how the hell did you negotiate a 5-year deal worth that many millions of dollars in 4 minutes? Like that's amazing. And then you realize, like, oh. So people been kind of talking. So then the NFL tried to change that, and it made it like kind of an afternoonish kind of thing. And I think, and at the end of the day, you have, like you said, you have agents, and again, agents can talk. It's not like the players are talking. Like, you have agents who talk to people behind the scenes, and they put feelers out. And I think the second transfer portal window, Jason, is going to be very interesting and active. And look at David Bailey from Stanford. That wasn't necessarily a position of need for Texas, right? They didn't need him, but they decided, hey, let's kick the tires and see what happens. And Texas, to their surprise, did not expect Texas Tech to say, here, take it all. Take everything we got. We don't care. We want you. And I think guys are going to look at this thing, at this second portal window, as an opportunity. You can look at Tennessee at this moment that says, you know what? I can really get paid in this window. And maybe it was a little bit more difficult to do it in December because, hey, guys were focusing on, the high school recruiting. Some of these good teams were in the playoffs, and it's kind of congested. But now you come out, like, to your point, I don't think it's just the scrubs who are saying, man, I can't make it here. I think we're going to see some of these top-notch guys go in and say, all right, who's got the money for me?
Well, hey, you don't think Tennessee's tampering with players right now at the quarterback position? You don't think they're
hypocrisy? There's always hypocrisy in sports, Jason.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they're not waiting until the portal window. They're not just sitting back waiting to say, okay, let's the portal. Tennessee, I promise you, is being active behind the scenes. But a lot of it makes sense. Like, if you're a good player and you have value, I mean, you got to be careful. You can't do what Nico did and just hold their feet to the fire too much. But if you're a good player, like I said, let's say we saw it last year, Anwar, at the defensive line position. The kid who committed or transferred to Oklahoma that Texas was in on, and I'm drawing a blank on his name. But he ended up picking Oklahoma, and Oklahoma way overpaid for him. But teams get desperate this time of year, right? This is their last chance to really fill their roster. I mean, their early enrollees are on campus. This is the last portal window before the season starts. Teams will get desperate. Like, we really need this defensive lineman, or we really need a tight end. So they might overpay. I mean, you might have in kind of some form or fashion, like a salary cap coming, depending on what happens with all this legislation trying to go through. So this is the time. Hey, if you're a player and you want to try to test the Dominic Williams, thank you, Benji. If you want to test the market when there's unlimited restrictions, unlimited, no salary cap in place, nothing. You know what? This is the time. This might be your last chance. Go out and see what you can do. So you might be right. I mean, we'll find out starting tomorrow morning, but you could see some pretty good players jump in the portal. Maybe players from like smaller schools. I don't think someone from Texas is going to jump in the portal, right? They're happy at Texas. They want to make a championship run. They're a championship caliber player. But if you're at a smaller school, a Georgia Tech type place, a West Virginia type place, we've seen, hey, why not? If you're a really good player and maybe an all conference type player, put your name out there. See who's willing to give you what kind of opportunity.
But the thing is, I think, Jason, from a Texas perspective, Texas wrapped up its NIL stuff already, like right after the season. So most of all those guys pretty much got deals. So if someone's going in the portal now for Texas, they weren't the biggest priority for Texas.
Right.
They were just being quite honest with you, right? So that's where Freddie DeBose goes in just a couple of days ago. Just kind of like you can read the writing on the wall. So any guy from Texas who goes in, it's just going to be a guy that it is what it is, right? I mean, they took care of their guys. The Goosby's got, his NIL deals and the Manning and all those kind of guys. So all those horses are pretty much in the barn, right? So I don't think you have to worry about anything from a Texas perspective. But I've had this theory, Jason, and you tell me you think if I'm incorrect. I feel like over the last couple of years that Sark has realized, kind of, especially at the receiver position, you know what? It's cool for me to have my 5-star receivers, but if I could go out and get an Adonai Mitchell, hell yeah, I'll take that. It is cool that I got all my other guys on campus, but if I could go out and get Isaiah Bond, Matthew Golden, Silas Bolden, Matthew Golden, Silas Bolden, I'll take that as well. I just don't think this is the year where Sark suddenly pivots after going to the playoffs for 2 straight years. I don't think this is the year where he goes, nah, I'm not really going to go hard there. I feel like once you have a formula, you try to stick to it until proven wrong. And that's why, for me, I feel like he's going to go more guys, because I think he's shown us that he loves his young talent, but he will not turn away veteran guys in the portal who can contribute if they're available.
Well, a couple of those dudes are first-round draft picks. So, yeah, you'd be stupid. You're never – I don't care if you have 10 5-star receivers on your roster. You're never going to turn those dudes.
But Matthew Golden wasn't viewed as a first-round pick.
He was not. You're right. Well, he wasn't, but Bond was. But those roles kind of flipped. But, yeah, I mean – I guess technically Worthy wasn't transfer portal because he was just released out of his letter of intent, but kind of a similar situation. But
and there's been flops, right? Jai Hall was a flop. Like, there's been guys who haven't hit. Isaiah Nair, he got hurt, right? So there've been guys that they've tried to hit on and haven't, but he still seems to try to go for those guys, though.
Yeah. The guys who haven't hit mostly, a lot of them have been, like, in my recollection, former 5-stars that didn't maybe live up to those expectations at their current school or their former school. She's like, hey, transfer here. We can kind of tap into that. And now to me, it's like, hey, if they haven't done it at one school, they're not going to do it at a school like Texas. But, proven players like Adonai Mitchell, Isaiah Bond, before he got hurt, Matthew Golden, those dudes, they're pretty safe bets that they're going to come in and be productive players for you. But yeah, it's an interesting kind of dynamic, right? Because on one hand, hey, the system you're using has worked. You found some really good, talented players that have helped you get to the college football playoffs, the college football semifinals 2 years in a row, right? On the other hand, we've heard rumblings about some of these young receivers like, well, why do I want to go to Texas if I'm a high school receiver if all they're going to do is take portal guys and those are going to be their main guys every year? So it's a kind of a weird dynamic. You have to kind of find that balance. I mean, we've heard people put that in receivers' ears before, okay? But this year, it's a little different. They can say, hey, no. Look at what Ryan Wingo did last year as a true freshman. I mean, look what Jamie French might do this year, or Dalen McCutcheon. Look what he's doing in spring football. Whatever. We'll see how that shakes out. But you got to kind of have a little bit of balance. I mean, you got to be able to recruit those elite receivers and build them up, and be able to use them over 2 or 3 years. But yeah, there's nothing wrong. Hey, if you got an elite player who can be Texas wants to win a championship now. They're not looking 2-3 years down the road. They're looking to win a national championship in 2025. If that means they need to go out and find another receiver and a tight end and maybe another defensive lineman, and who knows, maybe a special teams guy. I know it'll drive Almar crazy to have another kicker in town. But if that's what you got to do to get over the hump this year, then I think that's what Sark is willing to do.
I mean, Benji, give me 1 second. I'll get to your super chat. Jason, I have what I feel like is the ultimate take as relates to what you talked about as far as receivers and guys coming in over them and so on and so forth, and all that stuff. At the end of the day, if Arch Manning can sit on the bench and wait his turn, damn it, man, everybody else on the team, everybody in the country can sit their ass down and wait. If that guy can say, you know what, I want to play, I want to be here, but you know what, Quinn Ewers is here, and you know what, I guess I got to sit down and wait. If he can sit, I don't want to hear anybody else complaining about having to sit and wait my time and wait my turn, but there's another receiver in front of me. Shut your ass up. Arch Manning sat and waited. I can't hear it from anybody else, Jason.
Well, we know wide receivers are kind of divas, right? So those dudes all think
quarterbacks are kind of pissy.
You know what? You're right.
Quarterbacks are pissy too.
They certainly are developing.
And if my last name on my jersey is Manning, I sure.
Yeah. Almar's frozen up. Is that just me? But receivers are notoriously. Oh, and now we've lost Almar on his show. But receivers are notoriously diva. Like, Benji, let me see if I can.
No. You're back. Spectrum won't kill my vibe today. I'm just saying they're all pissy. Go ahead. We'll put Benji up right now. Spectrum won't kill my vibe. I'm just saying everybody needs to sit their ass down. All right,
dude. It's just the way of college football now. It's the same reason guys transfer after 1 year if they don't get playing time. Like, no. I mean, first off, there's no regulations on it, which I think is ridiculous. There's got to be, but make these dudes sign a contract of some sort. But yeah, that's a whole other show and a whole other conversation.
All right, Benji says, how great of a sign is it that it doesn't appear that Sark is going to look at the offensive line in the portal? Only player that they had visited committed to Oregon in December window. In Flood, we trust? ? Hook 'em.
Yeah, you know what? They did target the USC guy, the Pregnon guy, in the December window, but that didn't work out. And I think you, Anwar, had heard that they really weren't that concerned. It wasn't like that wasn't a top priority for them, and it certainly doesn't look like it's going to be in the spring window. Now, listen, if some badass offensive lineman, a no doubt starter, jumps into the portal and reaches out to Texas and says, hey, that's where I want to be, and then they're going to take that call. But is that top priority for them? No, it doesn't seem like it. And yeah, I think that's a good sign. I mean, Kyle Flood, and I think Sark's confidence in Kyle Flood, as Benji says, I mean, he's earned the trust that he's going to be able to develop these guys and he's going to recruit well. I think Nick Brooks coming along, in my 3-2-1 column today, my one prediction is like, hey, I think Nick Brooks is going to end up being a starter this year at some point. And that's not a knock on the guys in front of him, but just even on Saturday, the scrimmage they had, I talked to a bunch of people who were at that scrimmage. Nick Brooks' name came up, Almar, as much as anybody. Him and Colin Simmons were probably the two names that came up. And I mean, Arch's name always comes up, obviously, but Nick Brooks and Colin Simmons, every time you'd ask someone like, okay, who stood out? Boy, that freshman tackle. And then Colin Simmons was the other name that came up time after time. So, and maybe I'm misreading. I said, but it doesn't seem to me like Brandon Baker or Andre Kojo have taken the bull by the horns on that right tackle spot. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, hey, that could open the door for Nick Brooks. I think Benji, it is a good sign that they don't view it as an absolute necessity to go out and just hammer the portal for offensive line. I think that's a good sign for some of the young talent they have on campus, and just confidence that Kyle Flood's going to have those guys right by the time the fall rolls around.
So, Jason, when the portal opens and Sark called you and was like, "Hey, Jason, how you doing, man? What's going on in your life? Love the show. I think you're the man I need to ask for advice today."
Yeah. I'll have my phone right by my pillow.
And he's like, "Jason, man, I just need to know, what do you think? What do you think I need on this team? What area do you think would be the area you want me to attack on the portal, man? Jason, I need your help. Jeff Banks is not helping me. I don't know where he is."
Yeah. So let's see, Sark, of all these practices you've let us watch, I've got a really good handle on this. Okay. But I mean, to me, okay, let's go position by position. Quarterback, no, right? Running back, it doesn't sound to me like they're going to go after a running back, but I mean, if the right guy is available, a true game breaker with experience, I think running back would be an option, a position I would look at. Tight end, absolutely. I mean, I think they absolutely need to go after a tight end on more.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have any really experience or a lot of depth there. So I think tight end needs to be near the top of the list. Offensive line, we've talked about. I mean, you could make a case that they could use an offensive lineman, maybe a swing guy that could play guard or tackle just to kind of be in that rotation, so to speak. Possibly a wide receiver we've talked about. Could they take a second wide receiver? Absolutely. Interior defensive line. Yeah, I still think I know they've taken a couple, but I think they could take another one there. Edge, you mentioned the Stanford player. I mean, I don't think they need another edge player. I was surprised they even brought that guy in. That was a little surprising to me. Linebacker, I know they brought in Brad Spence, but you're not playing like three linebackers that often, like in the old days, right? You usually got a couple of them on the field, but I think they're pretty good at linebacker. And honestly, I think they're pretty good in the secondary. I mean, they got talent, they got depth at safety, they've got talent, they've got really young talent at the cornerback position. To me, it's more about interior defensive line, tight end, running back, wide receiver, and then probably O-line in that order. And then let me say this. If a badass kicker wants to come aboard, absolutely. I mean, go get that kicker, and maybe one of the two scholarship guys you got on campus goes and tries his hand somewhere else if you need to free up space. But Texas could absolutely upgrade its kicking game. And you reported yesterday, and it kind of went along with what I heard on Saturday. Like, I heard the Bowmeister, the transfer, was just booming punts all over the place on Saturday. You reported, I guess Sark said yesterday that their punting game looks to be in pretty good hands. So I think punter's okay, but you could certainly use a proven, experienced kicker.
I mean, for sure, Jason. The tight end thing is a fascinating one. I want to have that conversation, Jason, because you've heard about Jordan Washington, but he's kind of dinged up at the moment. They've got a guy coming in, later on, but that'll be in the summer, right?
Nick Downs, usually like late May, so probably not too far away, but yeah.
So Nick Townsend is a little bit of a time before he's there, but Texas does run a 2 tight end set, usually, and so it seems like that's a position that they have to have bodies. Now, I will say this, and I apologize that these guys are going to catch strays today. But Texas has to find tight ends in the portal that are better than Jaleel Billingsley or Amari Niblack. Maybe you just don't get anybody from Alabama and you've solved all your problems, right? But I feel like that has to be, if there's anybody that's there from a tight end position, I feel like that if you're playing a game show and you got to hit the button really fast, to me that's the tight end is the one you hit the fastest on.
I would agree with that. Now, I do think you got Spencer Shannon, who's done well, kind of more regarded more as the blocking tight end. You mentioned Amari Winston, like the true freshman, has opened some eyes. So that, maybe that gives you a little bit of a soft landing at the tight end position, if that's the right description. But still, if there's one position on where I'm saying, hey, overall, every other, it's the tight end position. If you can go out and find a proven commodity, talent, experience at tight end, that should be the number one priority for me. That's the one area maybe where you're weakest on this roster. I do agree with you that it's tight end.
Yeah, I think so for me, it's tight end. What's two for you? Is it do you need more in the interior? And look, Jason, just out of just when we go there, last year Texas gets Jermaine Lole, they get
Mm-hmm.
Norton, they get Savea as well, right through the portal. So he had no problems just saying we're just going to stack bodies on stack bodies, along with the two guys who are coming in. And I mean, at that, do you feel like, hey, they've already addressed the defensive line position, or do you feel like, if they can get something more in the interior within the transfer portal this year, like go ahead and keep taking them?
I would keep taking them. One more probably. I talked to, again, people that were at practice on Saturday. It was a coach's clinic. Recruits are out there, so there's a lot of eyeballs there. So, I talked to someone, and it's a person I trust, and this person said, like, I trust like this person's evaluations. He said, "Hey, those transfer defensive guys." He goes, "They were out there, but," and he goes, he wasn't saying that they weren't going to be solid players, but I don't think any of them just like, oh my gosh, that guy blew me away, right? So, but the same could be said for those guys. Bill Norton was a good player for Texas last year, but the same could be said for those guys they brought in last year. None of them were all conference type players, but you throw enough bodies at a problem, right? You're probably going to have a solution. So, yeah, I do think another interior defensive lineman, especially Justice Terry's been banged up. He's maybe not the true, interior defensive lineman. He's even playing, outside some. So, I do think they could stand to add another true interior defensive line space eater in that group. So, yeah, I would keep throwing bodies at that position until you feel like you've got enough. And I think one more is still in order there.
What about linebacker for you? I know, like we said, they already got Spence, right? Yeah. So do you think, hey, one more is good? Because again, Sark doesn't seem to have problems trying to get himself linebackers. I think he only had one last year, which was Blackshire. That didn't really work out that well. But what about that?
Yeah, some of the linebackers they've taken, Blackshire and Ben Davis, right? These guys were like highly rated recruits who went to Alabama, so there's some knowledge of them. Like those dudes never played. I mean, very, very rarely.
They had Diamante, Tucker Dorsey,
which he was coming from a small school and he was kind of productive.
Yeah, Devin Richardson.
Yeah, I always prefer those types over somebody who's okay. They're at Alabama, but they've never really cracked the two deep. So what makes you think they're going to do it at Texas? But honestly, Elmore, I feel pretty good about linebacker. And the only thing that worries you about linebacker, and I hate to put this out there, but if somebody gets hurt, obviously then you don't have a ton of experience depth. But, your top two, if we're talking Ant Hill and probably Leonga Lafau, I mean, Brad Spence on Saturday was running with the twos, him and Ty Anthony Smith. That's a pretty good group of four right there. I mean, Ty Anthony's still young. He's still a little light in the britches, but he's a good player. I mean, he's scrappy and can run well. And, his frame needs to still fill out a little bit, but they've got four pretty talented linebackers. You're only really putting maybe two of those guys on the field at the same time in most cases. So, if I'm Sark, would I turn down a linebacker, a talented, productive linebacker? No, I wouldn't, but I don't know that it would be towards the top of my priority list either. But again, hey, we don't get to see these dudes in practice every day.
Nor will we, Jason.
No, I think it's so, to use the word cute, it's so cute that on our Microsoft Teams chat for all the viewers that our own Alex Dunlap still holds out hope that they're going to let us come watch a practice. I'm like, Alex, the writing is on the wall, dude. It has been. They're not going to open up. But he still holds out hope. He's like, well, they haven't sent out an email yet. So, like, maybe it's going to happen. Like, no, dude, it's not happening. We're not going to get a practice window. So.
Nah, I mean, he's got a better chance of getting a phone book delivered to his front door than them opening up another practice. That's just not going to happen. It just kind of is what it is. It's funny. Sark was saying something yesterday, Jason, he was talking about, you guys, he said something about he said it about like young people before, where if they make a mistake in practice, you guys are going to say something about it and report it and so on and so forth. But, but you'll miss all the other good things that they did. And I wanted to say, Well, if you open up every practice, there would be no problem with that. So we'd have
We'll
all the
report
accurate
nothing
reporting.
but good things if you open up.
Yeah, I would say, one drop, like no. But if you only see one drop in the 8-minute window, that was actually kind of enough. Of course, then he'll just respond back, or I'll just close the one practice that you got to see, and that'd be the end of it. It was interesting, Jason. A couple last things before we get out of here. It was interesting that Sark yesterday started talking about he felt really good about Michael Kern and Jack Baumeister. You already kind of referenced that, but it was also interesting when he got to talking about the kickers that he talked about they need to get some right rhythm of consistency. That sounded like coach speak, that I don't want to mess up these guys' heads, but I ain't really feeling either one at this moment. So if there is a badass kicker who is that the guy you say, hey, whatever, like we bring in this guy and then we show one or two the door? Like, if there's a kicker out there, what do you do?
I would go get him, but I have so many thoughts on this. First, Will Stone is a lefty, right?
Yes.
Okay. Somebody told me on Saturday, man, the lefty has a big leg. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I think of all the kicks, and listen, the people I talked to weren't sitting there like logging each kick necessarily, but they hit all but one kick, I think, on Saturday. But it sounds like overall, like you said, this spring, maybe a little bit inconsistent. And someone said in the chat, like, Bert Stone redemption tour this year. We've seen Bert Auburn, We've seen Bert Auburn be really good. So we know he has it in him, but can he get past this mental issue that, a kicker, you kind of go in these slumps and sometimes it can be hard to break out of. It's almost like a baseball hitter. Well, on the flip, so you're asking your question, if there's a really good kicker who's proven to be a good player, an accurate big leg, would I take him if I'm Sark? Yes, I would. But Anwar, there's a difference. Let's say a guy like this kicker at Texas State who's from Liberty Hill on it. So he's from right around here, right? He's in the portal. He was good at Texas State. Kicking at Texas State versus kicking at the University of Texas, the pressure that you're going to have to deal with is a whole different ballgame. So there's no guarantee. If you take a kicker from some small school and like, whoa, that guy had amazing numbers. All right, you're throwing him into a whole other. Bert Stone would probably be damn good. Cody Carpentier. So just as long as he got the Bert hair, Cody. Okay, but if you're taking a kicker from a small school, you're throwing him into a whole different pressure cooker at Texas. Yeah, there's no, a wide receiver. If he's good at one school, he's probably going to be good at Texas. Kickers, man, I don't know. There's a lot of kind of. A lot of blind faith you have to put in that kicker that they're going to be good at Texas. But the short answer, if there's a good kicker out there with experience who's been good at his previous stop, if Texas could get him, yeah, I would bring him in. And then you might have to have a hard conversation with the two kickers you have on campus. One of you might need to try your hand elsewhere. I mean, both of you possibly? I don't know. But, that sucks. I would hate it for either one of those guys, but it is what it is, man. I mean, you got to find a guy who can perform and put the best man on the field.
I want to show you something, Jason. I wrote this a couple of weeks ago, and it was kind of a breakdown here. See if I can put this on the screen and make sure it takes up the majority of the screen here. All right, let me take the chat down. Can you see that on your screen by any chance, Jason? Yeah. I mean, if you break down Bert Auburn over the last couple of seasons, first of all, outside of 2023, if you go for 50 or more, it's. I mean, I know for a lot of people it's probably not that great, but it's not happening. His last season though, hit that sweet spot between the 40 to 49.
Yeah,
that's where it was a killer, right?
Yeah.
6 to 12, only 50%, down 25% from the last season, and so. You could see his field goal percentage went down dramatically last year. So it's a concern because we did get to a point last year, Jason, where we forget. I won't say we forget. We just don't mention it as much that Sark benched the guy going into the Ohio State game, right? And so. By the way, the Bert Stone thing is pretty hilarious by Cody. But Sark did bench a guy, right? And so I'm 100% with you on that. All right, last thing, Jason. If you are Sark, and again, he's called you, are you taking just best guys available and stacking talent, or are you going with need more so than anything else? And,
I'm
and,
going need.
and that's not obviously not quarterback, right? Let's be clear. Like, you don't need a quarterback, right? But outside of that, just everything else.
Because you could make a case at pretty much every other position. Like, hey, it wouldn't be bad to bring in a player, right, at running back, or it wouldn't be bad to bring in an offensive lineman or a cornerback. But yeah, I'm going for need, Anwar. I'm not bringing in. It's a good question though, because as I talk it out, I'm kind of changing my own mind, because I said I'm not bringing in a guy who's going to just be a body or maybe sit the bench. But if they're the best player available, they're probably not going to sit the bench. They're probably going to play for a year or be a starter, or at least be in the rotation. But for me, it's more about need. It's kind of a combination of both. But Sark said Monday. He said, I think it was Monday, right? I think of a previous press conference. I can't remember, but he said, hey, we're not just going to take a body just to take a body, right? It's got to be someone that's going to help this team get better and help it win championships. So I think there's kind of a balance there, but I do think need for me is first. There's certain positions I would be looking for more aggressively than others. And then you try to find the best players at those positions. So, I don't think it's just about taking, but again, I mean, if you have a need at tight end, don't take a tight end that's not going to help that position group, right, or that room. So it's you got to kind of find a balance there. I mean, I think the need positions you need to look at first, and then you need to assess, okay, can this guy really help that position improve for us, and then decide if you want to pursue him. Because if you can't, don't waste your time, your energy, your resources, your NIL money, bringing in a guy who's just going to sit the bench and not help this team get over the hump to potentially win a national championship.
All right, Jason, get out of here. We'll save some of your high school recruiting stuff for another time. But
yeah. It's always stuff like that to talk about. But I will see you on the podcast later today, right, Omar?
Nope.
No, I'm on out. Okay.
Nope.
I'll see you somewhere later on.
All right, take care, Jason. Hated to reveal it like that, but nope, I'm not going to be on the podcast today. I got some business stuff to attend to. So that's it. If you guys joined us late, go back to the beginning of the show and go ahead and start there. Jason and I had some good conversation. We will have the podcast at noon, Football with Friends, as you guys know, always in the later afternoon. Cody was in the chat. Of course, Alex and Dunlap, those guys hold it down heading into the evening hour. That's it for me. Clear the deck, get out the way. Y'all make y'all good. Enjoy your day. Hope you have